What's going on, everybody? It's been a few days. I had to take a little time to kind of get back into the groove before I came back. And the importance of this video is a very important video that I meant to bring this uh, a long time ago, but I never did. So let's get to it. So what I'm wearing today is Creed Silver Mountain Water, and we're going to talk about, was the person really indicted by a grand jury in a so-called criminal or federal case? Now, what came to me with this is I had one time I was helping somebody in regards to a federal court case. And he showed me, he wanted me to help somebody like his friend. And he had an indictment. And when he had the indictment, I was like, hold up, how did they get in front of a grand jury to indict you? There's no exhibits, there's no evidence attached, there's no you didn't have a chance to go to the hearing, form a defense. How did this happen? So a lot of times when people get paperwork from lawyers or judges or people who are portraying themselves as lawyers, a lot of times people don't question it. So I want to welcome everybody back to the channel. You know, if you like it, subscribe, hit the bell, you know, so you can get access to new updates of this channel, because I'm going to start really going in. I've been holding back. It's time for me to start going in. So, you know, the truth behind the legal system is really like how it operates. Okay. So today what we're going to do is we're going to basically ask one of these questions, uh, that query that I've always had when people got indictments on federal indictments or state indictments. I never saw how they actually had the grand jury trial. And why it's so important to understand is because if somebody allows a grand jury to convict you or say that there's enough evidence to move forward in a court case, then you have a right to actually ask what evidence was provided to the grand jury and who are the grand jury members. But we're going to get into this a little deeper, you know, because, you know, what if I told you many indictments aren't really what they seem? So what we're going to do is we're not going to waste no more time. We're going to get into it. Okay. So first, you have to understand what a grand jury is. So a grand jury is a group of regular citizens brought together to decide whether there is enough to charge someone with a crime. Okay. So how did the court or the prosecutor get a grand jury together to indict someone, but there's no record of this grand jury hearing? There's nothing. Okay. Don't fall for this. Okay. And I'm not trying to tell people who are violent criminals how to beat cases. I'm not telling people who do things like I don't agree with domestic violence, the R word, any of that, pedophiles, all that stuff. I'm not into that. You know, I'm not trying to defend those type of people. Okay, so what I'm saying this is for people who are literally being tried in cases and they're not giving it free, like due process. Okay, so we know what a grand jury is. So I'm going to go through it and I'm going to read Wexlaw or Cornell's version. So a grand jury is a group of people selected to sit on a jury that decide whether the prosecutor's evidence provides probable cause to issue an indictment. An indictment formally charges a person with committing a crime and begins the criminal prosecution process. In the United States, a grand jury consists of 16 to 23 people. Grand juries convene for a period of 1 month up to 1 year. The grand jury proceedings are held in private. The suspected criminal actor is usually not present at the proceedings. So, what a lot of times what people don't understand is the fact that a grand jury was done in private means you have the ability to challenge it. Because how do you know that the prosecutor even actually went to a grand jury? You don't. The grand jury acts as an investigative body. How can a bunch of citizens who don't know civics or don't know the law actually pass some type of ruling? They can't. They can't do anything. They don't know anything. So acting independently or either independently of the prosecuting attorney. But what they really mean is when they're acting independently, or either a prosecuting attorney or the judge. They're acting independently of them, but that doesn't mean that the judge and the prosecutor didn't schedule or didn't set up this so-called grand jury, if they even have one. Criminal prosecutors present the case to the grand jury. See, hypothetical. The prosecutors attempt to establish probable cause to believe that a criminal offense has been committed. The grand jury may request that the court compel further evidence, including witness testimony and subpoena of documents. The grand jury is generally free to pursue its investigations unhindered by external influence or supervision. As noted, United States versus Williams, juries act as a buffer between the government and people, providing a check on governmental problems. Power. So we now understand what a grand jury is, its functions, and how it is established. And the reason why it's so important is because if you're ever in a federal court case and there's a grand jury, or if there is a state case and then they give you an indictment, you have a right to see how you were indicted, what evidence was used to indict you, who indicted you. They could be biased. You have a lot of power that you guys don't know if you ever get in this situation. Okay, so you know, it's used in a way to charge someone with a crime. So it's supposed to act as a constitutional check on government power, making sure prosecutors can't charge people arbitrarily. Even though they do, or without probable cause. So the grand jury can be used as a buffer to give you the illusion that the legal process that you're in is not an actual malicious prosecution, but it is. Okay, it sounds good. All of this sounds good on paper, but in reality, it don't work that way, because if the prosecutor is trying to try you, the federal government's trying to get you under some type of indictment, they're gonna do whatever they want to. They're gonna abuse it. So you have to see that grand juries are completely controlled by the prosecutors. So the defense attorneys aren't allowed in. The accused can't even defend themselves, and the prosecutor decides what evidence gets shown or withheld. So the loophole to this is basically when you understand that this is where it gets shady. You know what I'm saying? So you got to go over some of the tricks the prosecutors use, or we're going to go over some of the tricks the prosecutors use to manipulate the process. So with not having any defensive evidence allowed, they'll go forward in a court case. But you have to have access, or you have to have a right to challenge anything, because the Constitution says what? You have a right to face your accuser. So look, in legal proceedings, no defense evidence allowed would typically mean that the court has ruled that a specific piece of evidence or a whole line of defensive evidence is inadmissible and will not be considered. The ruling can occur for various reasons, including evidence being irrelevant, inadmissible, hearsay, or improperly obtained. Well, hold up. If I have a indictment and it's the so-called grand jury indicts me, well, I don't even have a defense. So how can you indict me when I don't have a defense? So they allow one-sided testimony. Okay, one-sided testimony means that just basically the side that's painting the prosecutor's picture is the one that basically gets to set up the court case. This is why they say that the feds win, was it 93% of their cases? Yes, it's not just because people blow trial. It's because people are dealing with one-sided accusations. How are you going to win when you're dealing with a one-sided accusation? Is allegation. It's very hard to win in that situation, because one side is presenting all the evidence and you're not doing it to the contrary. But there's also legal remedies for that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just going over this. So if you're ever in a situation where you got a state indictment or a federal indictment, this is going to pay. This free free video is going to pay for itself 10 times over. So this is a violation for a lot of people, in their due rights, due process, because it allows one-sided testimony. Okay, so this can, they can call officers and so-called experts, which are biased witnesses, and the defense can't cross-examine. So if somebody says that you did something, you have a right to cross-examine them. That's why I was trying to tell you guys in traffic courts, if the judge is there and there is no other party, you're being fleeced. You need to get the hell out of there immediately. Secret proceedings, grand juries meet totally in secrecy. There is no transcript unless the court says so. So in a secret proceeding, and somebody says it's a secret proceeding, and they are the ones that are holding the alleged evidence, that means they can create evidence. Look, fake or rubber stamped indictments. In rare but real cases, prosecutors have have filed indictments without even convening a real grand jury vote. Just a form stamped in file. And this is what they're really doing. So look, the worst part about this, like, even if the process was completely fraudulent, most people don't challenge it because they don't know. So this type of information is what I try to teach you guys, just in case you ever have a friend or you have somebody who is, and you know they didn't do it, they know they didn't do it, but the prosecutor is going to paint them as a monster even though they shouldn't be. So look, let's say you're charged, and you know, here's some red flags that your indictment may not be real. Okay, the indictment is signed only by the prosecutor, not a grand jury foreperson. So look for the signature. Okay, there is no court record of the grand jury vote. This is something you need to ask for. The indictment is vague, missing dates, evidence, or parties. You were never notified of grand jury proceedings. The indictment came out unusually fast or without arrest. So if you see any of them signs that I just listed to you, you might have not even been indicted at all. The prosecutor just playing you. So if I tell you the problem, I gotta tell you the solution, right? So look, if it sounds familiar to you and you've been in this situation, don't even trip on it. Don't panic. Don't be afraid. Look at your case and look what I just said and request that from any attorney. I mean, you can either go to an attorney saying, hey, I don't think I was really indicted. Where's the evidence of this indictment? Where's the evidence of the grand jury vote? Where's the evidence of this? Where's that? See, the more questions you ask, it breaks down the system, because that's how the system exists, by us not questioning it and not asking questions. Okay, so you can file a motion to inspect the grand jury record, ask for the transcript, the witness log, and the vote log. You can also demand for a verified complaint. If no one has filed a sworn complaint claiming an injury, the indictment may be legally defective. Okay, so I want you guys to know this, because a lot of times when you go to court, you will be deceived. The prosecutor is trying to not come out of pocket with their court fees, and the prosecutor is not trying to lose. Okay, so the problem with court, problem with our legal system is everything is so political. So since it's so political, it makes it hard for people to get justice, especially when a judge is trying to be reelected. They're not trying to appear soft on crime, or if they are soft on crime, it's only soft on crime for people who contribute to their campaign, or companies that contribute to their campaign. This is real stuff that's happening. It's people going to jail. It's people in 20, 30 years, 40 years in jail off of false indictments. That's why I did this video, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing in 2025. I'm coming with the heat, man. Coming with the heat. So for just to close it up and wrap it up, grand juries, was meant to give people a fair opportunity, right, in trial. So the grand juries were actually meant to protect us, but in many cases they became tools of control. So when you're getting in court case, look at the evidence, look at what the prosecutor is bringing towards you, look at what the people are alleging, the claims, ask if these claims are substantiated or not, ask about the competency of the people who are testifying and making claims against you. Don't just let somebody give you a piece of paper and then make you panic and make you twerk and dance. Nah, we ain't twerking no more. That's 2024. We halfway twerking in 2025. So look, with what evidence? And was the grand jury even real? How many people even ask that? If you send me an indictment, okay, when did this happen? Where was the grand jury? I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because I'm not going to let you get that over on me. I've had it done in the past, not indictments, but I've had it done when you get served and the court is playing you. And when the court is playing you, a lot of times I get people saying the courts don't listen to me, the judge isn't listening to me. If they're not listening to you, the first thing you need to do is look what to do. What are the rules of court when a judge is not listening to you? That is a simple Google search and it'll save your life. So if you found this information eye-opening, make sure you like, comment, and share. You know I don't ask y'all for much. If you like my channel, you like the content that I'm bringing you, just share. A share or say, hey man, I see some content over here you might want to look at. If somebody's going through it and it appeals to them, it don't cost you nothing to share information and where you got it from. And with that being said, hey, if nobody told you they love you today, I'm telling you I love you. So you have a great day and remember.